Hello everyone and welcome back to the world of Isekai. Today I'm coming with a new series and it is One Piece time. So let's get started without wasting any more second. Luffy is currently on the bar and drinking with Shanks. Obviously he's not going to drink wine but he is drinking his juice, and as he started drinking he also tried to convince Shanks to let him join. He also showed his fist punching forward, trying to mimic the pistol, but none of these caught Shanks' eye, so he was still rejected. During this time, a bandit named Higuma entered the bar and started making quite a trouble for Shanks, but Shanks simply laughed it off, not caring about the wine spilling from his head. He didn't really care about it, and seeing this, Luffy was furious as he shouted at Shanks, but he was still ignored and told that he really did not care about such a small thing. And angrily Luffy sat down and started eating a fruit that was on the box. This fruit was silver in color and had a strange aura around it, which was quite confusing at first, but Luffy did not care about the aura or anything like that. He simply just picked up the fruit and ate it. So first of all, there is one thing that I would like to add in this what if, that is Luffy is going to eat three devil fruit, but unless he has the body like Blackbeard, it should be impossible. That's why I'm going to create a new kind of fruit that has never existed in One Piece world, and I borrowed this idea from another manga known as My Hero Academia, where in that manga main character Deku got One for All, and the first user of One for All had a strange quirk that could store and increase the power of the other quirks that had been stored inside that first user quirk, and after it is passed down each time it gets stronger. Obviously this fruit does not have the similar capabilities. Instead, what it does is that it simply allows multiple power to exist inside a space that is inside his own body, and this allows him or anyone who eats more than one devil fruit to use the power of multiple devil fruit in a cooperation. So Luffy can still eat more than one devil fruit and use it cooperatively. So what I'm going to do next is quite understandable, at the same time a bit boring as well, cause I'm not going to change one of Luffy's main devil fruit. I know there are a lot of options that we can go through, but I still think Luffy having rubber body and rubber fruit is still quite awesome, especially for the fact that this is not just a rubber fruit but also Hito Itonomi model Nika. For his third devil fruit I had two choices. First is karma fruit that Aruj ate, although I'm not sure if it is still called karma fruit or not, cause I think it is still unnamed, but that fruit allows person to grow stronger by taking damage from his opponent. This is a perfect devil fruit for someone like Luffy. And the other option is recruitment, that is super strength fruit that allows the user to gain superhuman strength upon eating it. In the recent chapter of One Piece, we saw Burgess lift a gigantic mountain that was the size of an island with his one hand. I think he lifted it with his one hand. Although I would like to give him Orange Devil Fruit, I don't think going that route would be better, since it only increases one's strength after getting damage, and I don't want to make my MCM. So I think I'm going to choose strength fruit, because not only we have not seen any of its capabilities except for increasing strength, we can also develop it with our own idea. Especially Luffy can develop it together with his rubber fruit for 10 years. So I really want to choose strength fruit here. So Luffy finds another two fruit. Despite being disgusted by its taste, he still wanted to eat those. So without any hesitation, he starts eating them. And just when he had taken the last bite of the third fruit, Shanks turns around and sees Luffy eating the devil fruit from that box. And when he sees all three of them open and empty, he suddenly falls into his knees with his eyes wide open. Oh my god, what have I done? I killed Luffy! His mind started going blank and his color of Spring King was slowly emitting out of his body. Everyone who was laughing on the tavern immediately stopped and ran toward Luffy, trying to check his condition. They knew that there were 3 devil fruit in those boxes, but they did not expect Luffy to eat those. Of course, he was a child, so they cannot blame him for eating those fruits. He did not even knew that those were devil fruits, and this is because Shanks was blaming himself for letting Luffy eat those 3 devil fruit. If he had not been relaxed and if he had used observation haki, he would have stopped that. He could have saved Luffy. At this moment, his eyes were turning blank as he began to almost tear up, muttering, "I killed Luffy, I killed Luffy." His voice was going loud as his color of Spring King was emitting even more. But suddenly, Ben Beckman spoke. "Shanks, stop! Look at Luffy! Nothing is happening." Hearing his words, Shanks turned around and saw that nothing was really happening to Luffy. Everyone in the crew was in confusion. Just when Ben Beckman looked at Shanks and saw his hopeless eyes slowly gaining hope. According to all those myths, we know that if you eat more than 1 devil fruit, you immediately die. But nothing is happening to Luffy. If that was correct, then he should have been dead. But he's not. Could it be that myth was incorrect? Another cadet of Red Hair Shanks spoke with a doubtful tone. "No. If those were really myths, then there would not be any news of people dying because of eating more than 1 devil fruit. Not to mention, there would be a lot of crew with few people eating more than 1 devil fruit. But we have traveled the entire Grand Line. We haven't seen a single one. Isn't that right, Shanks?" Shanks nodded his head and said, "That's why I almost lost all of my hope. Thank God you are okay, Luffy." He walked up to the kid and patted his head, trying to check his body. And he found that nothing really happened to Luffy. Luffy was still in the state of confusion as he did not understand why Shanks was so worried. At this moment, Shanks puts up a serious face and says, "Luffy, I don't know why this is happening, but you must promise me one thing. You must promise me that you will never try to eat a fruit like that in your life, because if you eat more than 1 devil fruit, you will die. Although I didn't know why you did not die, but I don't want you to take such risks." Hearing Shanks' serious tone, Luffy nodded his head, but he still asked in confusion, "What is devil fruit?" Shanks replied, "Devil fruit are the cursed power of the sea. Once you eat one, you will get an amazing power, but at the same time you will not be able to swim for the rest of your life." Hearing his words, Luffy shouted in shock, "What? I don't want this kind of power. I want to swim. I just learned swimming so that I can go and become pirates with you." Hearing his words, Shanks realized that Luffy had not changed even a bit, so he simply laughed up at Luffy and they continued to have fun. After that, everything happened the way it should have been happening, except Luffy was much stronger than in original, and he even managed to defeat both Sabo and Ace with the power of his double devil fruit. I'm not going to count the third devil fruit as a devil fruit right now because it truly has not been developed, and also it does not have other powers. But because of strength fruit improving his strength with rubbery stretchy body, he was able to get stronger at a faster rate. 10 years have passed and Luffy has finally turned 17. Deciding to leave his village and become the pirate king, he finally set sail, and right now he is facing a whirlpool. But he quickly hides inside a barrel and he finds himself waking up inside a ship. As he kicks some pirates, he finds a strange boy with pink hair who seemed extremely cowardly but at the same time had a great dreams. For some reason, his words seems to have inspired the young one to become a marine and chase to become a marine admiral. Obviously, Luffy did not care. He walked out with Kobe, who was still in fear of Alvida, but he eventually overcome his fear and called Alvida an old hag. Soon the battle started and it ended. Yes, just like that. It ends in a flash because Luffy is not messing around right now. He has gotten a lot stronger. The way strength fruit works, at least from my iteration, is that it not only increases his strength permanently, but whenever his strength is increased through training, that gets multiplied. Yes, for example, if he had the strength of 10, he trained for a while and get another 10, his total strength became 20, right? So it gets multiplied by 4 or 5 times, making it 100. Yes, that's how his strength grew. And because of the growth in his strength, he also acquired a lot of fun abilities that he was quite curious to check in the Grand Line. Obviously, he had checked it with his grandfather, but his grandfather was too strong for him to defeat that monster. So he decided to check these abilities on the other pirates, at least not his grandfather. Then after that, after defeating Alvida, Kobe took Luffy to Sail's town where they meet Roronoa. Obviously, Luffy is still going to ask Roronoa to join him, but Zoro would not agree at first, but eventually under his persuasion he eventually agrees, and Luffy also defeats X-Hand Morgan here. And I'm not going on a detail about this fight because it is just a single punch. Yes, Alvida, X-Hand Morgan both are just a single punch opponent. After both of them are defeated, Zoro and Luffy finally set sail. Although Zoro was surprised by his captain's strength, he did not feel discomfort since his captain should be stronger than him. But at the same time, he did not want to left behind, so he also started turning on that dinghy for quite a while. Because Luffy got caught soon enough by a bird that he tried to hunt. Even if he had grown stronger, he was not completely immune to the plot line, as I would like to call it improvisation. Anyway, he still got caught by the bird and got thrown into the land of Orange Town, where he eventually meets Nami and invites her to join, but she disagrees. She takes him as a prisoner and sets him inside a cage. Obviously, Luffy could easily break out, but he also wants to check this girl's determination. Also check whether she was truly righteous or not. After all, he did not want any kind of villain to enter his ship. So after finding out that even though he was a pirate, she was still hesitating to attack him, he decided to break out of cage, which shocked everyone. Soon, Zoro also caught up and saw his captain coming out of cage after breaking it. He did not care about it because he knew that his captain was strong enough, but he also got curious as to why Luffy got caught. Obviously, he did not ask him right now. They decided to defeat Buggy first, and Nami went to steal the treasures while Luffy simply punched Buggy. But Buggy was not that easy opponent, at least unless Luffy uses his full power. He truly full, not even full, but unless he uses those ability, he would not be able to defeat Buggy that easily. But Luffy was not willing to use those ability right now. He had saved them for the Grand Line. At this moment he was hesitating whether to reveal his true strength or not, simply because first he was saving those for the Grand Line, second he had a reason to take out those ability. He didn't know why, but he could sense a kind of fear in Nami's heart, as if she was dominated by someone, and this was not someone she liked. So if he wants her to become his navigator, he had to beat this person no matter who he was. That's why he was also a bit accepted to reveal his true strength. That being said, while he was playing against Buggy, he found that Buggy was quite related to him. At least after they started talking about Straw Hat, he remembered Buggy being mentioned by Shanks and curiously started asking more about Shanks from Buggy, but Buggy obviously did not want to tell him. So Luffy, who had admired Shanks a lot and also not wanting to hurt Shanks' friend, decided to kidnap Buggy. Yes, we are making a huge change in this story, because right now Buggy is going to join Straw Hat Pirates under the persuasion, or rather forceful behavior of Luffy. He had no choice but to accept his position into Luffy's crew, and after joining Luffy he found that they did not even had a boat, so he decided to take his own boat. But considering that there was the Jolly Roger of Buggy Pirates in that ship, Luffy obviously did not want that, so he still forced him to settle into a dinghy as they finally set out from the Orange Town after kicking out Buggy Pirates from the Orange Town to the Syrup Village. On the way, Buggy and Luffy started talking a lot about Shanks and how Luffy Shanks met and how Buggy got separated from Shanks. And from what he learned, it turned out Shanks, who originally planned to become the king of the pirates, decided to stop for some reason and go out for the One Piece much later. At least he has not gone out for the One Piece. So at this moment Luffy simply just said that he must be waiting for me to get stronger so that we can become rivals for the One Piece. And hearing his confident tone, Buggy was speechless, simply because Luffy was way far from Shanks and he did not even know how far. At least he didn't think Luffy was as strong as Shanks or even remotely close, because Luffy still chose to hide his powers. But eventually they got together quite well, as both of them were quite comedic and also quite idiotic. Buggy was cunning, Luffy was idiotic, but Buggy was a joker while Luffy was a normal person. So these two combined together to become idiotic jokers of the crew. Obviously they still reached Syrup Village quite soon, and everything happened the way it should have been, except for the fact that Luffy did not even get a single scratch while fighting against Kuro. Most of the other members did not notice it, but Buggy, who had gone out into the Grand Line and even ventured into the New World, knew about Luffy's powers. So he got quite curious as to why Luffy, who is just a kid from East Blue, know about him. So after they settled down, after they got to the ship and set sail from Syrup Village, and after Usopp joined, Buggy finally decided to ask Luffy about Haki, and Luffy simply replied, yes, I learned that while I was training, but I did not know what it was until my grandfather eventually revealed about Haki to me. He also praised me for being a genius for awakening haki at such an early age, but I think it is also because of my devil fruit. I ate three devil fruits. When he said that, there was a silence in the entire ship, as if nobody could believe what he just said, simply because they did know that it was impossible to eat more than one devil fruit, especially Buggy. He immediately called it impossible, and Luffy had no choice but to explain it. And how Shanks explained it to him, he said that the first fruit that he ate must be the reason why he could eat two more devil fruit, but Shanks made him a promise that he was not allowed to eat more than two devil fruit, at least no more devil fruit, because he was not sure what is the limit of that first devil fruit, and if something goes wrong he would die. So he also did not wanted to gamble his life like this. After hearing about the logical explanation behind eating three devil fruit, Buggy accepted the fact that Luffy ate three devil fruit, and one of them had to be a devil fruit that allow him to eat two more. But he was also surprised that what Luffy ate was both of them were paramecia. Obviously, he also understood that both of these devil fruit quite suited each other, since strength fruit could increase Luffy's strength by a lot, and rubber simply just increases his strength as well, which means he would only grow stronger. More importantly, he did not need to change his battle tactics or battle arts, like his fighting style. He did not need to change this in the middle of a battle because of the existence of second devil fruit. He did not consider his first devil fruit to be more important to him, because in his eyes only the rubber fruit and strength fruit could possibly have any effect in the battle, since strength fruit simply help rubber fruit to get stronger. It was quite an amazing matchup, and Luffy also got shocked by how much Buggy knew. Thinking about how he traveled with Shanks, he understood that Buggy must have gone to the Grand Line and traveled around the world. He got quite curious about the stories of Buggy, but he did not want Buggy to reveal a lot more about the island or the adventure. Seeing Luffy's behavior about the adventure, he could not help but remember his captain, and at this moment he finally understood why Shanks gave that hat to Luffy, because that was the hat only worthy to be worn by someone who embodies freedom. He also understood the difference between him and Shanks. Shanks was a lot more talented than him and also embodies freedom, just like Roger. And Luffy was same. He also was talented and also embodied freedom. He couldn't help but see the pillar of Roger, Shanks, and finally that pillar falling to the height of Luffy. It was slowly growing or slowly descending, but it was surely an inheritance that this boy deserved, he muttered under his breath as he began to decide his life, and he finally decided to help Luffy become Pirate King, as he declared that he knows a lot more about this and his information will definitely help Luffy in his journey, and he will also make Shanks jealous because of joining you instead of him. He knew that Shanks truly cared about him, and he would also be jealous about him joining Luffy instead of Shanks. And after that, they continued to set sail, and with the advice from Buggy, they decided to find Baratie, where they can find a proper cook, since not even Mochi or Kawachi had joined their crew. Buggy had to find this safe for this ship, otherwise they would not survive in the Grand Line. So they decided to go to Baratie and find a proper safe, and this safe was none other than Sanji. In this timeline, nothing different happened, as Luffy still crosses Dawn Creek with a single punch. The only difference would be his battle with Mihawk. Since Mihawk injured Luffy's partner, he was not going to let Mihawk go that easily, and he was also curious about the power of the strongest swordsman in the world. So he immediately charged up with his fourth gear, since he did not expect to see a person as strong as Mihawk right now. He immediately used his full power to fight against him, and while he was fighting against Mihawk, he also asked Buggy to take a look after Nami, as he sensed that she was hesitating to leave at this moment. Because of this, Nami could not escape, and this was good for her because she finally saw Luffy's true strength, and she did not need to betray him anymore. She could just tell him his trouble. She had already identified him as a good pirate and would willing to join him. It's just that she did not want him to get involved in her troubles. And right now he was so strong that she did not even think that it would be a trouble for Luffy to solve Arlong. The battle between Mihawk and Luffy did not last long, since they were not even standing in a proper boat. They were simply standing in some broken boat that was almost going to sink. So they decided to call it off, especially after Luffy found that Zoro was still alive, and after Zoro made an oath to Luffy, Mihawk finally left. After that, Nami finally revealed her problem to Luffy and the crew, and they got angry. Even Buggy was a bit angry at Arlong. After all, he had been traveling with Roger, and even though they also did terrorize the Orange Town, even Luffy had to admit that Buggy did not hurt those civilians at all. At most, he was acting like a normal pirate, and he was different from Roger. He himself admitted that he was different from Shanks and Roger, and Shanks and Roger were quite similar to each other. So he knew that doing this kind of thing was not bad. It's just that what Arlong did was much cruel than him. At least Buggy had not truly killed somebody. I don't think he had killed anybody else except for his own crew member, but they were not truly dead. Okay, I'm not going to whitewash Buggy right now. Let's just say that he was angry, and since everyone was angry at Arlong, they decided to find Arlong as soon as possible. Nami had no opposition to this decision, and they soon set sail after Sanji joined, and they soon arrived at Kokoyashi village. And after arriving there, Luffy simply knocked out every single Arlong pirates by himself. He did not even let his entire crew fight. He did everything on his own, and more importantly, he did not even use cockroach haki against these pirates. Instead, what he did was use powerful attacks to break their bones and crush them mentally and physically with his strength. And after he crushed all of them, he finally declared that Nami was his friend, and nobody is allowed to hurt his friend. No one. That was his declaration, and Nami break into tears as he hugged Luffy and sobbed in his embrace. Luffy, being the guy who does not understand love or women, he simply did not care about her crying in his embrace. Instead, he just patted her head and tried to encourage her to smile. Finally, they decided to leave Kokoyashi village as Nami also joined the crew. With 6 members, they finally decided to set sail into the Grand Line, and after this nothing really changed. Smoker tried to stop them in lockdown, but he was still defeated. The only thing that changed was how Luffy declared he is going to be the pirate king. Instead of simply saying that under the threat of Buggy, he simply raised his hands on the platform and shouted toward the crowd, making everyone stunned except for his crew, who knew that he was dead serious about it. Smoker tried to stop them, but Luffy simply one-shot Smoker with his armament coated fist. After defeating Smoker, they finally set sail into the Grand Line, but just when they were trying to pass from the lockdown, they noticed a powerful marine coming toward them, and this powerful marine was none other than Vice Admiral Garp, who promised Sengoku to take care of Luffy before he goes out into the seas. Obviously, he is going to stop Luffy, but in his mind, he just wants to check the strength of his grandson. And since it has been a year since he had not fought Luffy, he was quite excited to fight Luffy as well, but he did not want to hurt the people of lockdown, so he chose the most unpopulated part of the lockdown, which was the shore, obviously. And in the seashore, Luffy also sensed his grandfather, and as soon as he sensed his grandfather and shouted grandpa, everyone in his crew almost dropped their jaws onto the ground, especially Buggy, who still remembered Garp chasing him in Roger's pirate crew. And Garp also surprisingly recognized Buggy. He also recognized that Buggy was the pirate from Roger crew. He did not think that he would join Luffy. And now he was getting angry because Red Hair Shanks from Roger Pirate not only encouraged Luffy but fed him 3 devil fruit, almost killing Luffy. If it was not for his luck, he would have died. And this had truly angered Garp. If it was not for Sengoku stopping him, he would have gone out into the New World and killed Shanks before even he could become the 4th Emperor. Obviously, that was a bit of an exaggeration, but still, that was his plan. And now seeing Buggy, his fury was beaming out of him. He was truly angry. He even forgot about Luffy and targeted Buggy at once, trying to kill him, but obviously Luffy was not going to let him do that, and he immediately entered the Gear Fourth as he started fighting against his grandfather. But obviously grandfather was quite powerful, so he had no choice but to go all out. At this moment, he had only one ability that could help him fight against his grandfather, and that was Conqueror's Coating, that he learned but had not mastered yet. So he decided to master this technique in the battle with his grandfather, and the moment Luffy used Conqueror's Coating, Garp understood that his grandson has touched the peak of this world. He has truly reached the strength to keep him safe in his pirate journey. So finally he decided to let go of his hatred towards the Red Hair Shanks and Buggy, since most of Luffy's strength did come because of his strength fruit that allowed him to get stronger after each step of his training. So obviously he was also a bit grateful towards Shanks, since he knew that his grandson would be targeted by the world government if they ever knew about his identity being the son of the dragon, since dragon was the worst criminal for the world government. And after seeing his Conqueror's Coating, he fought against Luffy quite a while, but obviously Luffy was still not his opponent. His iron fists were still strong. Each galaxy impact was hurting Luffy deeply, but he was not worried about that. Instead, what he wanted was to get this fight over and also master his Conqueror's Coating. So he tried his best until he finally passed out because of the lack of haki. Of course, Garp could have captured him at this moment, but before he could, a wind blew in front of him and blocked Garp from moving forward. And seeing his son Garp clenched his iron fist once again and started battling against Dragon while Buggy secretly took Luffy into the ship and they left in an instant. The moment they left, Dragon and Garp stopped fighting and both of them let out a deep sigh. Father, you don't have to worry about him anymore. He can easily fight even the top powerhouses in this sea. He has truly gotten stronger, Dragon said with a low tone, and Garp nodded his head but soon burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. My grandson, that's my grandson. He even dared to use the old man's iron fist of love to train his conquerors, quoting, Hey brat, why don't you give birth to 3 more children so that I can make all 3 of them the new admirals of Navy? Hearing his father's words, Dragon got speechless as he quickly turned into the winds and disappeared, while Garp just kept laughing and turned around, seeing the damage that he had caused to the lockdown. He still apologized to every citizen, and finally, after the lockdown matter was settled, he returned back to the Marineford while Luffy and his crew finally entered the Grand Line, and the first person they met after entering the Grand Line was none other than Crocus. So about the Alabasta arc and the future arc, we are going to talk about it in the next video, so stay tuned for that, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like button for more content like this. Thank you.